Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Black Women's Affinity Group, our Did You Know Dialogue series. It's organized and brought to you by the Black Women's Affinity Group. The Black Women's Affinity Group is a subcommittee of the Texas HIV Syndicate. The syndicate is a statewide HIV prevention and care community planning group. Many of us on the call are super familiar with Achieving Together, the statewide plan to end the HIV epidemic. This plan was developed by syndicate members who are made up of prevention, care providers, representative from community-based organizations, aid service organizations, people living with HIV, trans folks, and communities represented from throughout the state of Texas. As an affinity group, it is our desire to align with the syndicate and Achieving Together to create a platform that is engaging and educational to our community as it pertains to Black women across the entire HIV continuum. During our early conversations on how we would make sure that we were successful in reaching our community, Crystal, one of our affinity group leaders from Houston, coined the term Did You Know Dialogues, or DIC Dialogue Series. So these conversations are designed to be the vehicle for the Achieving Together Black Women's Affinity Group. And we really do hope to bring you current and relevant educational topics like the one today. If you are interested in being involved with organizations that are committed to better health outcomes for Black women, I would encourage you to get involved with the Texas Black Women's Health Initiative. Each of the large jurisdictions have a chapter, and all of that information will be emailed following this program in a resource list. Also, please feel free to continue to follow us and join our work through the Texas HIV Syndicate and the Black Women's Affinity Group. So before I turn it over to our moderators, I do want to acknowledge that yesterday was National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. This day is to observe, increase awareness, start conversations, and highlight the work that's being done to reduce HIV. It is also a time to show up to support Black Texans living with HIV and to continue to end all health disparities. DSHS estimates that Black Texan acquires HIV about every 6 hours and make up a third of Texans who acquired HIV in 2019. While these numbers have improved, it still isn't where we need to be. When we look at Black women, specifically, 1 in 159 Black women are living with HIV in Texas. So, in order to end HIV in Texas, the focus really does have to be on Black folks. The Black AIDS Institute made a social media post yesterday that kind of resonated with me. So I wanted to take time to kind of read it. So it says National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day is fittingly at the start of Black History Month because HIV history is Black history. It is a reminder that we cannot end HIV without ending it in Black communities. Today is a stark reminder that the same racial inequities and systemic challenges that have put Black people at risk for HIV are the same ones putting us at risk for COVID. So, with that, I would like to turn it over to our moderators, Tana and Sadie, as they introduce our speaker and we continue the conversation this morning on HIV, COVID, research, and medical mistrust.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tana Pradia. I am part of Positive Women's Network, Greater Houston, and I am also a member of the Black Women's Infinity Group. I will be watching the chat box for any questions to our presenters and asking our presenters and our panelists questions. Take it away, Sadie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sadie Lachwaya. I am a part of Prison Health North Texas, but other days I'm Sadie in the community. I am also going to be co-moderating, so I'll be watching the chat. And yes, I'm just so excited to be able to have this opportunity and talk with the ladies.
So to get this conversation started, those of you joining via Facebook can also participate by putting your responses in the comment section of the bottom of the screen.
All right, everyone. So to kick off this conversation, we're going to start off with a poll question that will be placed in the chat box. And if you can respond in the chat box to this poll question, that will be very helpful to us. So starting off this conversation, the first poll question is, what is your trust level of your medical provider, of medical providers? So let us know, what is your trust level of medical providers? Yes, I trust my medical provider. No, I don't trust my medical provider. And the third response is, I have some trust in my medical provider. So put your comments in the chat box.
I don't know how to get on.
And as you put your responses in the chat box or in the comment section on Facebook, I want to go ahead and introduce our speaker, our first segment speaker and panelists. So today we have with us Dr. Mandy Hill, and Dr. Mandy Hill is a representative of the Delta Research Education Foundation. She's also the director of public health and an associate professor at UT Health. With her on the panel, we also have three ladies. Well, actually, it's going to be her as well as three other ladies, and these ladies are a part of the Divine Nine Black Greek letter sororities, in which they will be talking about the All of Us research program. And we're going to start off with Dr. Mandy Hill, who will explain the All of Us research program. And then we will go into a panel discussion with Dr. Camille White of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, Dr. Ms. Jennifer Jones of Zeta Phi Beta sorority, as well as Ms. Shantara, excuse me, and I shouldn't know how to say that because it's almost like my name, Shantara McBride of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Dr. Mandy Hill is also with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Dr. Hill?
Thank you very much, Shatara, for that introduction. Everyone, as Shatara said, I am Mandy Hill. I am fortunate to be a Houston citywide coordinator of the DREF Research Matters for All of Us initiative, which is a community engagement arm of the NIH All of Us program. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about what DREF is. DREF is the acronym for the Delta Research and Education Foundation. And this is a major nonprofit organization that was established in 1967 by members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, of which, like Shatara said, I am a proud member. So DREF is aimed at supporting African-American women and their families. And this mission reflects the mission of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where we aim to uplift the Black community. So the DREF Research Matters for All of Us initiative is a community engagement arm of the NIH All of Us program. And DREF is one of 4 funded community engagement grantees of the NIH All of Us program. And our specific objectives are to create awareness around clinical research, the importance of engaging in research, and having representation of the Black community in clinical trials. We also encourage health and wellness and educate the African American community. As stated, I'm the Houston Citywide Coordinator, and we provide 2 virtual community engagement events every month in order to educate the African American community about diverse areas of medicine, clinical trials, science, all of those things, so that we can make informed decisions about engaging in the research process. So what is this NIH All of Us research program? Well, it's actually a historic longitudinal study. Historic in that nothing like this has really been done before. And longitudinal in that a participant joins and they are followed over a period of time. For this particular project study, that period of time is 10 years, so that the researchers can look at the individual assess their health status at the baseline, the time that they joined, and look at the changes over time. The NIH All of Us program aims to gather 1 million diverse groups of participants to help accelerate medical advancements. One of the primary areas is precision medicine. And so with precision medicine, their characteristics are in mind. So if we want tailored treatment and care options as racial and ethnic minorities, we have to be a part of that process so that we can be considered in the treatment and care that we receive from the only healthcare system that we have. This program also aims to improve healthcare outcomes and decrease health disparities. I'm going to show you a brief video from DREF that describes what the DREF Research Matters for All of Us initiative is in the context of the NIH All of Us program.
The Delta Research and Educational Foundation as a public charity supporting scholastic achievement, public service programs, and research initiatives focused upon African American women. Today, DREF remains strong, vibrant, and poised to meet 21st century challenges with faith, unwavering spirit, and dedication the sorority originally envisioned. The charge to realize social and economic equality for future generations of African American women continues as the guiding principle. Since 2017, DREF has received funding from the National Institutes of Health to continue its role as a national community engagement partner to promote the All of Us research program through a community awareness campaign that informs African Americans and minorities about the importance of understanding and participating in biomedical research. The National Health Initiative, conducted by the Delta Research and Educational Foundation in collaboration with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the National Council of Negro Women, is entitled Research Matters, Creating Possibilities to Achieve Health and Wellness for All of Us. The objectives are to engage, educate, and ultimately enroll African Americans in the National Institutes of Health All of Us 1 in a Million campaign, a national database primarily comprised of diverse and traditionally underrepresented populations. The mission of the All of Us research program is simple. It is to speed up health research and medical breakthroughs by asking 1 million people to lead the way to provide the types of information that can help create individualized prevention, treatment, and care for all of us. The All of Us research program is a part of the Precision Medicine Initiative created during President Obama's administration. Precision medicine is healthcare that is based on you as an individual. It takes into account factors like where you live, what you do, and your family health history. Precision medicine's goal is to be able to tell people the best ways to stay healthy. If someone does get sick, precision medicine may help healthcare teams find the treatment that will work best. This will help give healthcare providers the information they need to make tailored recommendations relevant to people of different backgrounds, ages, or geographic regions. African Americans continue to have some of the highest incidence, prevalence, and mortality rates from chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, hypertension, mental health, and HIV/AIDS. Yet we comprise only 5% of clinical trials participants in America. Our focus and objective is to create awareness about how research matters in closing the health disparities gap. DREF seeks the assistance of national organizations, local chapters, sections, community leaders, and organizations to make the All of Us research program a successful endeavor. The influence, leadership, and participation of the aforementioned groups are needed to assist in promoting this groundbreaking opportunity. Individuals, groups, and organizations are welcome to assist with conducting and/or identifying outreach activities. Training, materials, and monetary resources may be available to support groups and organizations with approved collaborations. Please send an email of interest to researchmatters@deltafoundation.net outlining upcoming activities and events in which the All of Us research program can be included. For more information, please visit www.joinallofus.org/DREF.
that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. That was awesome. So the question that I have is for you, Dr. Hill. Black and brown people are not well represented in research. This also means that we are not considered in the treatments and health solutions created through research. How do we move beyond medical mistrust to encourage the research process?
Thank you, Tana. That is a great question. As the slide stated in my presentation, only 5% of all clinical trials research participants across the nation are African American. And I understand that there is a chartered history, and there's a reason why we have medical mistrust. We have not been treated humanely in certain instances, like with the Tuskegee experiment, where we were denied access to available treatment with Henrietta Lacks, where her cells were used without her consent. And these things did happen. And we don't want to pretend as though they didn't. However, we have to realize that when we have a medical emergency, when we need treatment and care, we use that same system that we don't trust. Mm-hmm. If you are going to allow yourself to be in a position to receive the treatment, you should identify your power and use it by engaging in the clinical trial process so that that treatment can consider you, your unique physiology, your biology, your race, ethnicity, your social factors, your environment, all of that that shapes the treatment and care options that we receive. So if you're going to choose to use it, and we all choose to use it, I'm in the emergency room, I know that we all choose to use it. If you're going to choose to use it, we should definitely engage in being a part of what determines the treatment and care that we receive and the people that we care about receive.
Thank you, Dr. Hill, for that response.
You're welcome.
So I guess my question would be for some of the other ladies is, I know that, how do you recommend Black and brown women to identify what are good research projects to participate in exactly? And this could be a question for any of the other ladies on the panel.
I'll go. My name is Dr. Camille White. I'm a part of the Black Greek Letter Consortium. I represent Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. I think that's a fantastic question because there are so many disparities in our communities. I would say to arm yourself with information. There are a lot of different resources available, especially through the National Institutes of Health. We have a system called PubMed, and you can use that to research peer-reviewed journals and peer-reviewed articles. So it has that scientific information that supports it, and it's fact-based. But for me, I like to become engaged in research projects that directly affect me and my community. So you could look at some of the illnesses that perhaps have attacked your family generationally. So if it's breast cancer, if it's lupus, anything like that, we don't have a strong representation in clinical research. And to become involved in those studies, armed with the correct information and aligning yourself with partnerships through your doctor and other people who can offer you credible information, I think that that would be satisfying and really serve to help our communities.
Thank you for that. So the next question is for any of the other panelists. What information needs to be shared with Black and brown communities and by whom to effectively communicate the importance of research participation through initiative like the NIH All of Us program?
I think I'm Jennifer Jones, and I'm a part of BGLC as well, and I serve as a program coordinator for the consortium. I think that being transparent about everything needs to be shared, particularly to our people, the Divine Nine Service, the Black community. And I think a smart thing that the NIH did was to partner with us because we are the face that they trust within our community, because we've been in the community way before this happened. So I think that transparency is so important, that every from the beginning to the end. explaining everything that's going on through the processes need to be explained to people that are participating in that. And one of the things about the All of Us research program, you can be as in as you want and you can leave whenever you want and you have access to all of your data. But that needs to be explained. Me having access to my data, what does that mean for me? What can I do with that? Can I take that to my doctors, which I have done when I'm a two-time survivor of breast cancer. And when I got it again, and I'm looking at my counterparts that don't look like me, that's going through the same routines, and it's not working for me and was working for them, I began to ask questions. And the first thing when I learned about this program, I asked my oncologist, are you aware of the All of Us research program? And she wasn't. So I sent her all the information, the links that she needed to go and read up as you're getting ready to help me. I have to help you to help me. But I think you have to be able to ask those questions. And I think traditionally within the Black community, we go to the doctor and accept everything that's told to us. We don't check it. We don't get a second opinion. We take that pill, don't ask what's in the pill, what are the side effects of those pills. We don't do any of that. And we just, whatever the pharmacist says, we just like, okay, when they say, you know, would you like to have a consultation on this pill you're about to take? And we just be like, no, just give it here. And you don't know. And then if you have a side effects, you just stop using it. You don't go and try to figure out, okay, why isn't this working? Yeah. So I think all of that, we need to be able to ask the right question. We need to be able to know the beginning to the end. If you don't understand, don't say you don't understand. That's okay. And don't feel like, you know, I don't want them to think that I'm dumb and don't know about my own body. You do know more about your own body than the person that's treating you. So tell them whatever it is that you need to tell them, but ask the questions to follow up on whatever it is that the information that they're giving you.
Right, it's like managing up. So yeah, you're right, definitely true. My question is going to be for Ms. McBride. So what tangible actions by members of research community are needed to build trust in the face of a real history where Black and Brown people have been treated less than human? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. I serve as JJ's program assistant. And so I truly think that, first of all, they have to understand there's a reason why there's hesitation and there's a reason why there's distrust. And I think oftentimes people go in and say, well, we're not there anymore, so just get over it. No, I need to sit here for a minute. And I need you to, to be patient with me and hear me when I say, and when I ask more than one question. I often think about going to the doctors with my grandmother and her disdain for going to the doctor. Like she couldn't stand going to the doctor, and mainly because she felt like they weren't going to listen to her. And I sat there and I was like, we have a list that we created in a car, we created at home, in the kitchen, wherever, and we're going to go through all these questions until you're satisfied. I think that is one of the ways that researchers and anybody working in any community that you're serving people is to be patient and just understand. And I know that we're ready to move forward and we need people to, come on. But oftentimes it's also understanding there's a reason for the delay, there's a reason for the distrust, there's a reason for the pause. And I think we need to meet people where they are.
Yeah. That's true. I'd like to chime in and echo her sentiment. And as Jennifer said, using your voice, feeling like what you have to say to your clinician matters. And sometimes there is a perception that they know more, they're more educated, they're the expert. So my voice, what do I know? Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we don't address that feeling of inferiority amongst our people and actually how the system has contributed to that feeling. When people do use their voice and they're dismissed and they're not heard, and this is still happening in 2021. I hear testimonials at least once a week that are heartbreaking. And I think that as a consortium, what can we do alongside this NIH All of Us program to help people feel more empowered and to feel like I am an equal partner in the decisions being made about my health?
Yes, thank you. There's a question in the chat box that someone asked, Wendy asked, is one of the myths that I felt I'm a victim of, but how do we get past doctors thinking Blacks can take more pain? And I'm gonna give that to Camille, Dr. Camille.
I'll speak on that, from firsthand experiences, in medical school. gosh, we never dispelled those myths. And when I talk to people that are still going through the medical education system, they say the same things. And I have personal experience with this. I remember my sister going to the dentist and he didn't give her enough pain medication. And she came out in tears and she had to tell my parents about it. And he said he didn't realize that she would take the average dose that a white person would take. And so we've never addressed these things. So we have to keep complaining. And it's also good to align yourself with a physician who's culturally competent, right? Mm-hmm. And someone who values your opinion and someone who you've established a relationship with them, someone who you have trust. And one thing I do like about the NIH All of Us research program is that one of the committees that I sit on, I take back to them what I've experienced in the Black community, what our thoughts are, what our fears are, and they seriously consider them and they include that in the program. So if they're going to change policies like going forward, they always take that into consideration, especially with the data and health disparities. So that's something that I really enjoy about the program.
So it looks
Thank
like we
you.
have one question in here as well too. I'm going to give this one to Ms. Jones. Manny Steffens, I want to say, I could be saying it wrong. Their question was, how are we able to encouraging the communication effectively, especially among our aging Black women?
I think we have to be so authentic in our speech and what we're saying. I mean, you can't sugarcoat that generation of people. I'm probably part of that generation. You have to come straight with me. You can't sugarcoat, beat around the bush. You got to tell me what is. I mean, and that's what we expect. And I think you have to be very, very authentic. And just as we, as women, Black women sitting on the screen, you have some elderly person in your life that needs to hear from you. I mean, you have to address their fears. They have fears that Shantara talked about, but you're going to have to address that. You're going to have to make them understand, because some of them, I don't want to go to the doctor, because when you go to the doctor, you find out what's wrong with you. That's part of the process. So, you got to find out what's wrong with you to be able to treat what's wrong with you. But we have to be very authentic, above board, shoot from the hip, and don't try to sugarcoat things. You have to tell them what is, and, even addressing those things in the past. And that's one of the things that we've been able to do through the Black Greek Letter Consortium. As we went out to engage people, we actually worked with DREFT. We addressed those things that have happened in the past. Yeah, that has happened in the past, but let's talk about the future. Because yes, it is. That's real life. And I know that there's fear, but I think that sometimes our fear keeps us from moving. It's not supposed to keep us stagnant. It's not supposed to keep us in that place. Fear is to make you aware, right? So I'm going to be aware. And with my knowledge of being aware, I'm going to move from that to that next space. I'm going to ask the question. This is what's happened then. What have y'all done to create a safe space for me now? As I go into clinical research, what have you done? But that's what elderly women or Black women want to know. What have you done since then? What's the difference? Why should I trust this now? And we have to be able to articulate. And like Dr. White said, you have to do the research in knowing what it is you're going to provide for those folks that you're talking to. I mean, and one of the things that we do, we can't just talk about it. We got to be about it. We got to know about it, to talk about it, to be about it. We have to do all of that to be able to have those conversations with our elderly generation.
And may I add just one thing? I think it's also important to remind them that they deserve it. I think for so often they're used to pouring out and used to just not being heard, or no one cares if the heat on too high, not hot enough. No one considers their opinion for such a long time, and they're used to it. They're used to just giving. And I think reminding them, they deserve to know. They deserve the best care. They deserve to have this doctor wait 30 minutes as they answer all their questions and feel comfortable to get the answers that they need. And I think one of the hardest parts in just seeing my grandmother not feel like she deserved to know, like she didn't want to be a bother. She didn't want to, rush. And I'm like, we don't, and she had ALS. And I was like, we don't know nothing. I mean, not a thing about ALS. So we have questions, And so, but getting her to understand, you deserve this. You deserve to take all the time you need to get what you need. And I think that that also plays a huge factor in getting them to understand that they deserve to know.
Thank you. So Deborah Carr has a question in there, and any one of you can answer this. Are the materials in the NIH All of Us program written in layman's terms? Not everyone can interpret peer reviews in medical journals. That is a great question. Who would like to answer that?
I'll take a stab at it, as I am
Okay.
enrolled in the NIH All of Us research program, and I went through the consent process. And I've never seen a better consent process. It is with videos, and it's the characters in the video are Black and brown like us.
Mhm.
So you feel like you can relate to it. There's words and there's videos, but the fact that it's played out, it makes it so much easier to understand and make an informed decision about participation. As someone else said, I think it was Dr. White, you can participate as much as you want or as little as you want. So when you consent, you don't have to consent to every part of the project. You can do surveys. If that's what you're comfortable doing, they are willing to accept that. Or if you want to have your DNA tested and ancestry, what are you more likely to get over time? You can participate at that level as well. So it really is designed for everyone to be able to understand and comprehend and allow you autonomy in how much you want to participate.
Yes. Thank you.
And it looks like there's one more question, and Crystal Townsend said, "This is really helpful. I recently saw a clinical trial as looking for Black women being circulated from researchers from Hawaii. That struck me interesting, but it also made me question how to find more info about the research and the research team. What is the best way to find this information?" And this could be a question for anyone on the panel.
That particular research, I'm not sure. I don't know, Dr. White may know, but I mean, we know what's going on with the All of Us research program, but something that's specific, we wouldn't have an answer to that.
Yeah, you'd have to look at which institution is sponsoring the research and try to do a deeper dive there. But I would say from, someone that's in the community, one thing that's very important for me is finding out if they have an institutional review board that's a governing body for all the research studies, and make sure that it is diversified, not only in as far as ethnicity is concerned, but have someone from the community that's represented on that board too, as well as scientists, so that they can make sure everything is above board.
Yes, because I think in general, I think her question was more into generally, like, how are we able to go find about becoming a part of a research? If, say, I was a Black woman, what's the best way that I would need to be able to do that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like JJ said, we're specific to NIH, and then on their website, they do have a section of the different research projects that are using the data. So if they wanted to look there on the All of Us site, then there's a lot of information available.
Sadie, I think that's a good question. I'm a researcher and I'm also an IRB member. I've been on the IRB for 11 years. And unfortunately, there is not like this website where you can go to find out what all research is going on nearby. However, there are siloed places. For instance, and I don't have the website or the information, but there is an agency that has eligible research participants, people who are willing to participate in research, and they match. This is the study you're eligible for, you can participate, right? But there's also nationalclinicaltrials.gov, where a person can find out what clinical trials are available to them, but there are also research studies that are not necessarily clinical trials, and there is no universal place to find out where all of those studies are. They're really housed with each individual IRB.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Thank you, Dr. Hill. So there is another question, Cardella. I hope I'm saying that right. We must also include the elderly in decision-making. If we believe in nothing for us without us, they must be the cultural brokers for healthcare delivery. Currently, the elderly are having difficulty accessing COVID vaccines because they are caught in the digital divide. If they were invited to the COVID vaccine administration table, their concerns would have been identified and addressed. And Shantara, can you help me with that question?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, y'all hear me talk about my grandmother. I also attend church that is full of what I lovingly call senior saints, and they are just wonderful. And we actually did an activation at my church. And again, we showed the film, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Then we had a panel discussion, and then those people signed up. It was so amazing how when they were given information, then they were told the truth, that they were not so afraid of participating in clinical research. Shocking, right? So I think that we have to make sure to have them at the table. I mean, even now with our church and thinking about COVID and signing up for vaccinations, it has really been being on the phone, walking through the website, or here, I'm on the website, give me your information and I'll put it in for you, because it's such a disconnect. And I often wonder who was on that planning meeting that said we're going to do all this registration through the internet. And I'm just, yeah, that's neither here nor there. So we have, communities, we have tables set up at churches. They're working with people on the phone and to make sure that they get the correct information. So this is one of the things that I think is intergenerational, that we have to walk hand in hand with, what I lovingly call our senior saints, that we who know how to use all this technology, we can't leave them behind. Even if they're not in our home, if we see them, we have to make sure, do you have the information you need? And I think that's what we do as Black and brown people. We look out for each other, especially our aunties and uncles and grandmas and grandpas. And this is just one of those things that we have to be intentional about, because oftentimes people who making the plans, they don't see them. And so we have to make sure to see them for them.
Thank you.
I don't know about y'all, but I had a whole lot of information. Thank you, guys.
Yes, information overload.
Right, right. Well, I think we're ready for the next poll question. So, Shantara, if you want to go for that.
All right, so the next poll question is in the chat as well as posted on Facebook. Would you participate in a medical research study? 1 being yes, 2 being no, 3 being maybe. And to close out this panel discussion, I would like to pose that question to our panelists.
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, I, just like Dr. Hill, signed up for the information, signed up for the study for all of us. I felt like I couldn't dare bring this information to my church and my community and then not be a participant. That's just no. And so I signed up, went through all the questions, all the videos, and then I actually just participated in the saliva test. So they sent me a kit, and then you spit in it and it's okay, but then you send it back, and so I just thought that how can I be talking about this, promoting it, believing in it, but not be a participant? That also helps me that I receive the information that they receive, and I feel better equipped to have a conversation. So yes.
Yes, 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 triple yes, double yes, along with my entire family. We were all out to dinner. I'm like, I got to thinking, I said, I want to be 1 in a million. Why does it stop at 1 million? And that was my question. So I'm like, y'all need to sign up now. So we all signed up. And again, I've done all of the COPE surveys that they do once a month. I've done everything because I want to know, I want to know for myself. And because you have the ability to take your information that you're putting into this database, you can get that to your doctors. You can have them go and participate and do. So yeah, I'm all in, 100% in.
So it's my turn. I'll admit, initially I was skeptical. I said, okay, so they want all these Black doctors to get all these Black people signed up and then mislead us. So I did the deep dive in the information and established relationships with different committees, the chief scientific officer. I sat on a data panel, and I really said to myself, they're really looking out for Black people, and they want our feedback, and they appreciate what we have to say, and they want us to be included. And this is above board. And once I did all my due diligence and I felt comfortable with it, I sat with it, I signed up, shared the information with my family and friends, and I'm on board.
So the question was more general, not necessarily about the All of Us program. Would you participate in medical research? And my answer is, it depends. For the very reason that Dr. White stated. I usually go through the consent process, and I'm a research participant right now on 3 studies, but I have said no to some other studies. And I'll give an example. It was a fibroid study. There's not a lot of fibroid research because it disproportionately affects Black women. And the medical procedures that were required for a healthy subject was absolutely too much for me. The consent form was 25 pages and I read every word. I made an informed decision. That particular research study was not for me, but the 3 that I'm on, I liked it. I felt it was transparent. I was okay with everything that they were asking of me. So I say it depends, but make a fully informed decision. Read everything so that you know exactly what you're signing up for.
I agree, 100%.
I love how the doctors were the ones that were like, and me and JJ were like, yes.
Right.
But we were specifically talking about All of Us. But yes, I love how both the doctors like, y'all better read, get all that information.
Read it and reread.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much, ladies. As a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, I learned about the All of Us research program through Sarah Jones, Jennifer Jones, and she was trickulating it through our organization. And I just thought that it was just so important for us to have this conversation, especially in how that relates to HIV, because we know that Black women in HIV is disproportionately affected by it. And we need to have that conversation about research because we're not represented. So I thank you so much for each of you for coming on, sharing about the All of Us research program, sharing about research in African Americans in general, because it's an important topic that we should be having. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming and just pouring into this conversation. We have about 83 people on this Zoom, and we also have people that are watching it live on Facebook. And I think that everything that you provided resonated with each of us. And I just want to say thank you again. And we appreciate you for coming on and sharing this information with us.
Shatera, I think Ms. Helen had a question, or she's got her hand up.
Okay, so we got to make sure we let our wonderful Miss Helen Turner. So I'm gonna let Miss Helen Turner unmute herself and ask her question. Miss Helen is a fighter in the HIV field here in Texas, Black woman, and we can never just not let her speak. So go ahead, Miss Helen, ask your question.
Well, I just want to say this has been wonderful. I learn new things, and I'm one who does the research. God willing, on the 26th of February, I start living my 75th year, and I have participated in studies. I'm in a clinical trial right now, and this morning I got my second dose of shot for vaccine for coronavirus. And that was very traumatic for me because, as the lady said, sometimes people just don't have trust and they have fear, and that fear yields doubt, and that doubt makes for medical distrust. So I'm so happy that I did the research. I applied for every clinical trial known. I sat in 15 hours with the Food Drug Administration, Center for Disease Control, and when they were doing the emergency authorization for the vaccines. So I wanted to know everything because this is a Black body that is elderly, compromised immune system, takes immunosuppressant medications, has diabetes, overweight, high blood pressure, and everything you can name. But if you can do the research and not have people come saying, I'm here to register you, I got about 6 or 7 invites to come get the vaccine. You're old enough. It takes more than that. The approach that's being used to solicit registration for the vaccine is totally incorrect. You have to start with that distrust. You have to start with that kind of information to give people, to lift them up and give them an ability to see what is, because transparency builds trust, and you have to start there. And I'm not going to just talk, but I have a few physical manifestations going on right now. They just juke me in my arm, and my arm is very stiff, and I'm a little dizzy. But I wanted to say it's still worthwhile, because getting that vaccine means one thing, that if I look at Moderna, if I look at Pfizer, I can see that it's an mRNA vaccine. That's a messenger vaccine that give instructions to my cells, and from a genetic perspective tells my body to fight. And so if that virus tries to come in at me at 2 weeks from now, I'll be maximally immunized, have maximum immunity. So at that point, I'm feeling that if I ever get the vaccine, if I ever get the virus, it won't kill me, and I might not have serious medical impact. So if you're thinking about getting the vaccine but you're scared, call me. I'm in the book. I can help. That's it, Shatera.
Thank you so much, Miss Helen. I love hearing from Miss Helen all the time. And thank you for sharing your experience with the COVID-19 vaccine. That actually is a segue into our next segment, which is lived experience in medical research. And I am going to let Miss Crystal Townsend introduce our next speaker, Miss Karen Shores.
Hi, everybody. So Karen and I are really gonna have a conversation. And so I'll share with y'all, Karen and I met maybe 2 years ago, just about 2 years ago, at an event at Good Hope Church here in Houston. And it was around HIV and stigma and mental health. And after the event, we just connected. And so she began telling me a little bit about her story. She introduced me to her beautiful daughter and her granddaughter. And, since then, we've just kept in touch. We talk about a whole lot of things, including her experience in participating in clinical trials. So, Karen, if you can hear me, are you there?
I can hear you, but you guys, I'm sorry y'all can't see me. Something's going on with my camera.
Awesome. Well, you sound great. I can hear you so clearly. So I just want to, open it up. I know we have about 5-10 minutes to really have you share your experience. So first, I want to start off, okay, tell us what made you come to that event that you and I met at?
Well, what made me come is because I was at that point where I didn't see enough people like me with HIV, women, Black women like me with HIV, straight women. And I didn't have enough information on it to really tap into what everything was about. I got diagnosed with HIV in 2016, and I just really didn't have a lot of information in as far as being able to relate to somebody else that looked just like me who was experiencing the same thing I was experiencing. So I decided to step out and just really kind of physically get out there and try to find out more information for myself on how to actually be a part of the HIV community and being able to meet other people that were just like me. So that's what encouraged me to go to the event.
Yeah, I remember you sharing that with me. One thing that the Black Women's Affinity Group really talked about as we were planning this conversation was having folks talk about their lived experiences and lived experiences in participating in medical research. And so can you tell us about your experience in participating in medical research and how you got connected?
Well, when I first was diagnosed with HIV, I got diagnosed through a clinic called Legacy Community Clinic. I don't know if everybody knows about Legacy, but I got diagnosed through them with my positive result. And at that time, they gave me all the information I needed to be connected to St. Hope Clinic. And when I got with St. Hope Clinic, how I got introduced to the clinical trial was through the doctor that I have. He's an amazing, outstanding doctor. His name is Dr. James Sims. He specializes in HIV, but he's also a MD. So he does everything for me. Anything I need, he was a one-stop shop for me. And it was amazing that God blessed me with this gentleman. So I say all that to say this, he was the one that first put me in the clinical trial. I had never been on any other medication going in. So this was the first med that I was able to get on starting the trial. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you, so what has your experience been like with the clinical trial? Since this was your first clinical trial, you had never had experience with HIV treatment. So how was your experience with the clinical trial?
It was amazing. There was doubts at first. My family didn't really want me to do it at first because I didn't know enough about it. And they thought, well, what if this happened? What if that happened? You don't know enough. And I told them, my situation is I'm not good with pills. So, if this is a life and death thing and I have to take a medication every day at a certain time, just to stay alive, that wasn't going to work for me. So I kind of stepped out on faith and said, you know what, this is the best route for me. So I got involved into the clinical trial. And being a part of the clinical trial, they were very informative. They answered all my questions. The people there were amazing, very comfortable to talk to. I didn't feel afraid. Anything I asked them for, they gave it to me. So I really didn't have a bad experience. It was really a warm felt experience in my clinical trial that I'm also still in at this time.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this question. Maybe I'll come back to it. Well, I'm asking you this question because I know you talk about being a mom, you talk about being a working woman, and really you tell me how a lot of people in your family depend on you. And so your health is important to you. How have you managed to take care of all of these things and balance all of these things with work, family? How has that been?
It's a major struggle. I have my good days and my bad days. But if you don't make a big deal out of anything, people always think everything's okay. My family do know that I am HIV positive, but it's not really a major topic in my household. It's pretty much like, it's the same Karen, no issues, just let's get it done. I'm the go-to person, so sometimes it gets a little rough for me trying to balance all those things. And sometimes they don't understand when I'm just exhausted and can't move and I have to stay in my room all day because I'm not feeling well or my body's reeking of pain. They don't understand that. But you do what you have to do when you're a Black female woman. You have all those hats and you wear them. And a lot of times we put our pains and mental stability to the side to make sure that we do whatever we have to do for our families. And that's just something that we've been doing for years. And so sometimes, it gets hard, but I manage, and and we always think that we have to be on point. That's one thing that I say about us Black women, that we feel that we always have to be on point and that we can't not be vulnerable, but we can be. And people have to understand that we are human as well as everybody else is, and we have our ups and downs and our days when we just need somebody to understand. And sometimes I feel, as a Black woman, I don't have that opportunity to just be vulnerable. But I get through it, and with God's, help and His grace and mercy, I make it through.
Yeah. And I mean, you make it look very effortless. So, I mean, tell us, what would you say has been the biggest blessing in being a part of this clinical trial? And then, what's been the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge for me is being in the I'm gonna start with the negative first and then end with the positive. It's being able to go in and get the shot. The shot is very it's very powerful. So if you don't get the shot, in the right area, it's supposed to go into the muscle. And if it's not directly in the muscle, it can cause quite a bit of pain. So I'm very particular on who gives me the shot. So I have one person that gives me the shot, and if she's not there, then I have to reschedule till she's there. So that part, when y'all was talking about in the clinical trials about trusting, that part of it is what's hard for me, trusting anyone to come in there and give the shot that's being, I guess, experienced or went to school or educated to do it. I believe just because you're educated and you went to school doesn't mean that you have the right experience sometimes to, to do certain things. And so, I have this one young lady that I go to that does my shot amazingly. And if she's not there, then I have to reschedule my appointment until when she's there. Because I've had bad experiences with other ones that didn't know exactly. They didn't put it in the muscle, and it caused me quite a bit of pain. The good thing from it all is the biggest blessing in being a part of the trial is I can live a normal life, not having to be constantly reminded to take a pill every day, to stay alive, and gives me a chance to free myself from being constantly reminded that I have HIV. And also being able to help others live a better life through the HIV. With me having HIV and actually taking the trials, it'll give other people the chance to live a better life in the future.
Thank you. So I have just one more question. What is something you wish that people knew? It could be researchers, it could be family, but what is something that you wish that people knew or considered more when it comes to living with an HIV diagnosis or participating in clinical trials? Because I know we've talked about a lot of things, that Superwoman syndrome. So I want to ask you, that question. What is something you wish people knew?
I wish people would be more considerate about what other people are going through. We do live in a life right now where everybody's for self, and sometimes other people have to put themselves in other people's shoes and not just think self-centeredly. You may not be having the same effects that everybody else, other people may be having, but just to be more considerate about how other people feel, and ask them, hey, how's your day going? I mean, what's going on with you? Just being considerate, to me is something that would help and make life a lot easier for people who are living with HIV. And not just that, it don't even have to be HIV, just any disease, period. Just being more considerate, knowing, that people have, you don't know what people are going through in their body. And just being considerate about just, hey, you know what, you're not acting the same. What's going on with you today? What can I do to help you? I mean, and that can go a long way. And so that's what I think.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I know, as I wrap up, I want to first thank you for sharing your time and your experiences with us. And I know that a part of your response, and we talked about this, but we'll have to save this conversation for another day. But we talked about, in considering other people living with HIV, going through that sense of, being believed when I say that I am in pain, but also, struggles with trusting medical professionals. And also, you know, on the flip side, personally, those feelings of guilt and shame and worthiness and anxiety or depression, but you know, that's a whole different conversation for another day. But I wanted to name those things because those are the things that you're talking about considering as a fullness of someone who is living and having, you know, this human experience. So I appreciate you. And I want to turn it over to Shatera to take us in our final conversation around COVID research. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shores and Ms. Townsend, for that very engaging and enlightening conversation about someone's real experience with medical research. The next poll question is going to segue into our next presenter. And the question is, will you take the COVID-19 vaccine? 1 being yes, 2 being no, 3 being maybe. And as you put your responses in the chat box or via Facebook in the comments section, I want to introduce our next speaker. And she is someone I met a few years ago at a World AIDS Day event at TSU. And I was like, look at this Black woman. I love a Black female doctor. And so, and she was giving information around HIV in African Americans at Texas Southern University. And I was like, this is so awesome because we want to hear this information from people that look like us. And so Dr. Richmond is a medical doctor, and she's also the CMO, the Chief Medical Officer of AIDS Foundation Houston, here in Houston, Texas. And Dr. Richmond, I'm going to let you go ahead and start having this conversation about COVID-19 vaccine, HIV, and Black women. Go ahead, you have the floor, Dr. Richmond.
Thank you so much for that awesome introduction. So again, I am Dr. Taria Richmond, and I am a board certified family medicine physician and an HIV prevention specialist. I have a private practice in 3rd Ward, South Park. So if you are, and this is a shameless plug, but if you are in the Houston area and you're looking for a primary care doctor who has a shared experience and understands and listens, I am available. All right, may I have the next slide, please? So as far as AIDS Foundation Houston is concerned, I would like to share a little bit of information about what we do and why we do it. We are the first HIV and AIDS service organization in Texas, and we remain one of the national leaders in HIV and STD prevention programming. Our vision is a community where HIV is stigma-free and rare, and people have equitable access to care. And our mission is to end the HIV epidemic in Houston. I'm sorry. And so again, I am the Chief Medical Officer, and I have a private practice in 3rd Ward as well. Next slide, please. Now, so let's get down to, I do an Instagram live called Get Down to the Kitty Gritty, but today we're going to be getting down to COVID-19, HIV, and Black women. So everybody's talking about, or at least I'm sure y'all heard, people are like, how in the world did we get the COVID-19 vaccination so fast? Like, how was it developed so quickly? And we don't even have a vaccination for HIV. And I will talk about that a little later. So the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, approved vaccination, the COVID vaccination for emergency use through the Pfizer vaccine. Actually, other countries were already ahead of us. I don't know if you all know, but in China, they're not going through nearly as much as we are at this point. They are pretty much COVID free. They've started with the vaccination far before we did. And so we're still going through that process. But the vaccine was created in under a year. And that is unheard of. But I'll tell you why it's important. Let me say the last vaccination the fastest vaccination was the mumps vaccination. And that was created in about 4 years. Now, if you're not in kind of like the science world, you may not know that a lot of times we're working on things and we're staying close to our own information and we're not sharing information. But this is one time where all scientists came together to share the information that they had to generate a vaccination. Now, y'all remember back in 2002, we had the SARS outbreak? That was a long time ago, but that actually is when we started looking at the SARS virus, and the SARS virus is a part of the coronavirus family. In fact, some of us have probably been exposed to coronavirus, have had a cold and didn't know that it was the coronavirus, but the coronavirus goes way, way back. And if you look at even sometimes on the old Lysol bottles, I don't even think we have any more old Lysol bottles or even new ones for that matter. But one of the viruses that's listed on that bottle is coronavirus. So the virus is not anything new to us in general. However, we like to call the COVID virus real name is SARS-CoV-2. So you see all these different names, but the coronavirus and SARS is a part of that. The coronavirus has all different cousins. So think about your extended family. That's how the coronavirus is. The coronavirus has so many cousins, except for this cousin was the cousin that came in and shut down the whole family reunion. So I want y'all to think about that we knew about this, we knew about the virus, we just didn't know that that it was gonna behave the way it is up until a year, almost 2 years ago. So next slide, please. Okay, new strains. Wait, what? New strains of what? The virus is new, is new. This strain of the virus is new. But now we're seeing that in the United Kingdom, they found a new virus with the mutation. We first found that variant here in the States in December of 2020. Then we found it in South Africa, and it's made its way over here in January, and Brazil has made it, the one in Brazil has made its way over here too. But I like to think, yeah, I had to go to get this Rubik's Cube, okay? Think about the virus as a Rubik's Cube. Can y'all see this? And viruses are so smart. We can't see them with the eye, and we can see them with our plain eye or plain sight. However, viruses, bacteria, these microorganisms are small, but they are ridiculously smart. So let's take the coronavirus as your Rubik's Cube that came out like this, that cousin that just came and shut the family reunion down. Well, it can actually change. It can change its RNA to change around, which is the genetic material that it carries, to change around and become new or a modified version of its cousin. So think about this. Every time the virus, it grows, it changes, it can change the way it works. And that's called a mutation. And we see this so much with other viruses, particularly HIV, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So this is what's happening. We see new strains all the time. Now, the question is, are these new strains more contagious? Are these new strains more deadly? Will the vaccination work against those new strains? So as far as we know, these viruses, variants are more contagious, but not necessarily more deadly. And I would also like to compare the coronavirus to the flu. So just think about every year we're getting the flu vaccination based off of what we learned the previous season to develop that vaccination. So we may see more of that in the future. However, think about getting the vaccine as an option to protect yourself even from the new strains or the new variants of the coronavirus. So remember this Rubik's Cube. This is what we're seeing. So anytime somebody asks about that, think about all the different colors that kind of go together and can change up and behave differently and cause be more contagious and potentially cause more severe disease. Next slide, please. All right, y'all, I'm like Dr. White. when they said, okay, healthcare professionals, we got the Black people getting up there, the Black doctors getting their vaccination. And I was like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna have to think about this. It was so much confusion about the coronavirus when it first started. And as a medical professional, as a doctor, as a public health professional, there are a lot of times where I had to just tell my patients, I'm not sure. This is what we know now. So same thing with the vaccination. So I got the Pfizer vaccination. Here's my card. Here's proof. I actually got it done. My first dose was on the 3rd. So my symptoms, I had soreness in my arm a little bit. And the next day I had I was tired, but I'm a doctor, a business owner, a chief medical officer of AIDS Foundation, a mom, so all these things. So I don't know if it was the vaccination that made me feel more tired or if it was just everyday life. So I would like to, let's go to the next slide. So Dr. Richmond got her vaccination. So there's different types of vaccinations, and there's so many rumors about if you take the vaccination, you might grow something out the side of your neck, or it's going to change your DNA. Well, the vaccinations, at least the two that we are distributing now, the Pfizer and the Moderna, are not DNA material. They are not live viruses. And so basically what we've done is taken a protein out of that the viruses make, taking that protein, and that protein, once it's injected into your body, is going to initiate your body seeing that protein and developing an immune response. And both the Moderna and Pfizer vaccinations are in 2 doses. In after the first dose, the next one will be in about 4 to 6 weeks, and they will give you a date of when the second vaccination will occur. I have noticed that some people who have gotten the vaccination, especially on the second dose, and we think it's because it's more of an immune response, feel like Miss Helen was saying, my arm is more, so I'm a little dizzy. I've seen some patients that have had vomiting afterwards, like really bad fatigue and even fever, but that actually does go away. There are also some other vaccinations that are using the actual viral vector. We're not there yet, but right now we have Moderna and Pfizer available. And I did see someone say in the chat that Moderna was already being worked on in the market, and that's absolutely true. And I'll go back when we get a little further in the we'll get a little further in the talk. I'll explain why that's exciting and why Moderna was exciting, and particularly for the Black community. Okay, next slide, please. So before we go on to that, I am going to share my screen. Let's see, share screen, advanced sharing options. And okay. What I would like to do is play a little clip for you all. If I'm not able to do it from here, y'all can hear me okay? Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm supposed to know how to share from my screen, and I'm having a hard time with that right now. So hopefully you all will be able to hear this.
Girl, what's up? You give me a ride to the doctor's office. Yeah, you okay? Your blood pressure up? Nah, I'm about to go get that new COVID vaccine. I don't know. Well, it's 95% effective, and the sooner I get it, the sooner I can get back in the club. You know about Tuskegee, but that was before Black Lives Matter. That's true. Yeah, I'll give you a ride, and I'll get one too. Get your COVID vaccine today. Hey, how was that? Great. I hope you get everything you need. Bye.
So that was a little laughter. However, I know that this is something that's shared on social media. So I know that our trust of the system and being able to get the vaccination, we think a lot of times that it is people kind of orchestrating behind us what's best for us. And I will talk a little bit more about why it's really important to consider getting the vaccination. When it first came out, about 70% of people across 19 countries said that they will actually get the vaccination, but we need about 90% to create what's called herd immunity, and not let's have a COVID party and everybody get infected and that's gonna create herd immunity. That's gonna kill people. It really is important that we consider getting a vaccination and which one is best for us. Now, as far as the CARES Act and COVID, so we're in Texas. Most people in the age group who will experience severe COVID will have Medicare. However, in Texas, we opted out of the Medicaid program expansion program, so that leaves still a lot of people who are uninsured or underinsured who don't necessarily have access to medical care. But the good thing is the coronavirus, you can get testing for free at designated locations. They're spreading the word by radio. There is some digital divide. There's TV commercials, and the mayor has been very, very, again, I'm in Houston, and the mayor has been very, very vocal about getting testing at free sites for testing. The vaccination as well, if you don't have insurance, you can still get the vaccination without cost or little cost. And then the biggest question is, and I get this all the time, I offer telemedicine in my private practice, so people or patients are calling prior to going to the hospital because they don't want to go to the hospital, and I don't want them to if they're having mild symptoms. But if you're having severe symptoms, and that would include things like shortness of breath, chest pain, passing out, fatigue to the point where you can't get out of bed, it's time to call 911. And those hospitalizations, you won't have to pay anything upfront, but what will end up happening is they'll either be covered under the CARES Act or they'll be written off. So what's most important is our health. All right, next slide, please. All right, so Black women and Black people in general, COVID-19 and HIV, lessons learned. What does the research show us? So as far as the clinical trials, when it came down to the vaccinations, we're about 12% of the general total population. However, for both the Moderna and the Pfizer trials, not even 10% of the participants were African American. And so this is so important to know, because we won't necessarily know what will happen with us as far as the vaccine is concerned, because the ones of us have already taken it. We won't know until far out because we didn't have as much participation in the clinical trials. Personally, I offer clinical trials and currently am doing a COVID study for treatment for mild symptoms. And I'll give you an example. I think I pretty much have a good trusted relationship with most of my patients. So one of my patients said, hey, I got tested positive for COVID. Just send me in that medication for COVID. Well, technically, there is not one particular medication for COVID. We are treating the symptoms. But I said, well, by the way, I'm working on a study where there is a medication that we're looking to test to see if it will help with mild symptoms, decrease the duration of the COVID syndrome and the severity of the symptoms. And she said, let me think about it. So I just think it's interesting that we talked about this earlier in the session where we're ready. We'll take that prescription really quickly, but not necessarily participate in the work that goes into developing those medications that we're so readily taking. And I'll take this too. We are very educated. A lot of us do know, medications do have side effects, that medications do affect our organs, and ask questions, but there still needs to be more participation in clinical trials so that we know better how certain medications will work, particularly for example, for COVID, which is disproportionately affecting us very much like HIV. So Thank you, Ms. Shores, for participating in the clinical trial, because that will give us more information for those living with HIV to get a treatment that's an injection versus having to take a pill every day. Now, there's some differences in I don't know if this question might come up or not, but in other talks, people have asked, well, if they can come up with the COVID vaccine in 1 year or less, well, why can't they come up with the vaccine for HIV? If we go back and talk about this again, so HIV and the coronavirus they work differently. However, remember we talked about coronavirus has now like 4 variants, and it can change up, oh baby, HIV is like this. It is a moving target. And so that's one of the reasons why we haven't been able to readily develop a vaccination as quick. Well, it's actually way longer. However, that's one of the reasons. And then finally, I also wanted to say that concerning HIV prevention, we are not doing a good job. When I say that, I mean clinicians. We have our own biases. There is still a lot of stigma. There is, so we have our own things that we, have to work through. However, there are greater things in our ecosystem that are causing us to suffer more, not only from HIV, but also from coronavirus. So I was gonna say stigma, social and racial discrimination, us as clinicians not having those real conversations and having our own innate biases. We don't offer, a lot of us don't know about PrEP, which is a 1-a-day pill that helps prevent the transmission of HIV. So we don't know enough about it to even share with our patients. Finally, I'd just like to say that, did I go over time this year? Okay, I'm over time. Okay, finally, I would just like to close with this. Next slide, please. I don't know if y'all know Dr. Kizzie, but Dr. Kizzie is one of the primary scientists on the development of the Moderna vaccination. She has been working on this, over 6 years as far as the actual SARS vaccination, or excuse me, the actual SARS virus. Remember, one of the kind of offspring of coronavirus, and was instrumental in developing the Moderna vaccination. So we need more doctors, more scientists, more researchers like Dr. Kizzie, like Dr. Hill, like Dr. White, who are out here, and myself, I suppose, who are out here fighting a good fight in the community. We have a shared experience, and so we're able to relate more to our patients. I know someone posted, or patients and people that are participating in clinical trials. I also saw someone put earlier, how do we, thank you, Dr. Hill, how do we advocate for ourselves? Because y'all, I had my hands under my legs, and I was being so quiet and trying to be doing things in decency and order for the first panel, but I was like, oh, I got so much to say about this. And that's another conversation for another day. But we do know that medical students and doctors that don't have a shared experience as us do think, for example, that we experience pain differently, and that we don't need as much pain management, and don't necessarily listen to us. The studies have shown that, and it's reflected in our morbidity and our mortality, meaning how well we live and how often we're dying other than our counterparts. So I'm done with my time. I know I said a whole lot. This is the end of my presentation. If y'all have any questions, I am available. Again, I am Dr. Taria Richmond. I am the Chief Medical Officer of AIDS Foundation Houston, and I am in private practice in 3rd Ward South Park. And I saw somebody ask about insurance. I take most commercial insurance, Medicare and Medicaid. So that is, that's all I have today. Thank you all so much for your time, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr. Richmond, for that wonderful presentation. And there is a question in the chat that I did see. The question was about pregnant women. Let's talk about COVID vaccine for pregnant women.
So thank you. So it goes back to we get one thing of information, then we get another set of information. But at this point, it is recommended that pregnant women get the COVID vaccination or the coronavirus vaccination. Pregnant women are considered in group, I believe, either 1B or 1A. So pregnant women are priority to get the COVID vaccination.
Thank you for that.
It looks like we do have another question in there. Looks like it says, I have been seeing suggestions that people have severe allergies should not take the vaccine. Any thoughts?
So what I would say is if you have severe allergies, to definitely talk with your doctor about what those allergies are. Right now, I know for example, with the flu shot, if you have allergies to eggs, you can't get the vaccine. You should not get the flu vaccination. But I would definitely recommend that if you have severe allergies, that you follow up with your primary care doctor.
Of the 50 backings, as they're called.
Okay. Thank you so much for those wonderful answers. So now we will turn this over to UT Dishes.
Hey, so we are at the end of our Did You Know dialogue. And we would just like to thank each and every one of you for participating and listening and sharing your expertise around medical research, COVID-19 vaccine, as all of that pertains to African Americans. This has been a rich hour and a half. I think everyone is still pretty much tuned in from the beginning, as well as Facebook. We would like to ask that you take an evaluation over this series, please. And as you can see on the screen, we have the link as well as a QR code for you to take the evaluation. We will also be sending the evaluation link and information as well as the slide deck to everyone that registered via Zoom. And so be on the lookout for that in your email. At this time, we also have posted information on resources that you can partake in around COVID-19 and testing services and things of that nature. With that being said, I don't think anyone have any closing announcements or anything before we head out? All right, with that being said, we will again thank you for coming, and be tuned for our next Did You Know series that will be happening in a few months. We are trying to make sure that our series conversation, our topics are engaging and relatable to the Black woman in Texas and across the world in the United States. So thank you for coming, and remember, we're achieving together here in Texas. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a rest of your week.
Awesome.
Bye.
Great job, everybody.
Thank you.